Yeah.
We value that you can, throw a ball or dribble a ball,
Yeah.
but we don't value that you can do math in your head without having to use a calculator.
Yeah.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. If you don't have a passion for kids, this job is not, or let me not say this job is not for you. My building is not for you. Just kind of randomly popped up at the school and was like, you won. And they did this whole thing. I still am surprised that I won the award. I don't care what the stereotypes say. I don't care, at the end of the day, just because that's what people say about us, or that's what the data shows about us, it doesn't mean that that's what we have to be. When I say it to kids, it's like, well, I don't know anybody. I'm sitting right in front of you. Yes, you do.
I want to ask you about, first and foremost, winning National Assistant Principal of the Year award and the things you did on a day-to-day basis to, I guess, even put your name out there in that arena, and also like the things you did action-wise that helped you achieve that award.
So just to be 100% transparent, I still am surprised that I won the award.
Okay.
I guess just because like I was only in AP for 4 years. And so in my mind, I'm like, there's got to be somebody that does something better than me, right? So it just, I don't know. It just is still something that's hard for me to really think about. But I guess in terms of what I did to be recognized, so one, there's a process to this. So in order for me to even be recognized, I had to win district AP of the year. So I won that. And I guess what got me recognized really was just the amount of stuff I did in my school and in the district. So at my school, I was over all communications and publications. So anything that was sent to our community came through me. All of our school graphics, our school websites. I was over the math department, and we saw some significant growth. When I started, we were at 20% pass rate on the math EOC. After my first year, we jumped to 50%. When I left this year, we're at 71 or 72%. So just a lot of growth in the 4 years that we were there. The STEM Magnet, I was the director of that. Again, when I got to the school, the STEM Magnet started during COVID, so it never really was able to take off like they wanted to because they had all these plans, and then COVID was like, just kidding.
Yeah.
And so it was sort of like having to rebuild it and restart it when I came in just to get it out of the COVID phase. And then, of course, that led to having to hire more teachers, introduce more courses, finding a way to budget all that stuff. So getting sponsorships and community donations and stuff like that. So really, since I joined the district, it was like, how do I get into the community and get money? How do I get my kids into the community to do stuff? So I guess when I talk about it, it is actually a lot that I did, but you don't really think about it. Yeah, I just do it. And so to me, I'm just doing my job. But, then I started the mentor program, and I got them into other schools and reading to little kids at the elementary schools, stuff like that. So a lot of people just saw me because of what I was doing in all the different capacities. So one district AP of the year, which led me to being state AP of the year. There was like a 22-page application for that. Yeah. So
wow.
Submitted that application. And then again, like I remember I was at the district office one day and my superintendent was like, hey, I heard you're a finalist. And I was like, I am. I got an email that I was a state finalist. And he's like, well, you better bring it home. And I'm like, I'll try, that's my goal. But again, in my mind, I'm like, whole state of South Carolina, I'm not going to win this. I wasn't even really, if I didn't win it, I wasn't even going to trip about it. Like it wasn't something I expected. But anyway, so they chose 3 finalists. I went down to Columbia, interviewed. And that was in October when I interviewed. And then in December, they just kind of randomly popped up at the school and was like, you won. And they did this whole thing. But again, by that point, I had kind of forgot about it. So one state AP of the year, and then one of the ladies that works for SCASA, the state agency. After the celebration, she comes up and she's like, you have 2 days to apply for nationals. And and I was like, I think about it. And she's like, no, you don't have a choice. I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So put my application in for nationals, and kind of forgot about it too. And then
Yeah.
in March, I got an email at like 9 o'clock on a Saturday night that I was a finalist for national, and I was like, "What?"
Wow.
So again, in my mind, I'm like, "I think this is a typo."
Yeah.
um, but yeah, they flew me to DC. NASSP, which is the National Association of Secondary Principals, flew me to DC.
Mm-hmm.
I had to interview there, had to spend a weekend, do some stuff with them, and I guess they just sort of watched us and scored our interviews and all that, and I ended up winning nationals in April.
Wow.
Um, so it wasn't just like, you apply to be national. You got to go through a bunch of steps to get there. But yeah, wild ride.
Yeah. What has it been like since achieving that in, I guess, the educational industry? Have you experienced, you know, celebrity type of love in this arena
Yes,
industry? Like, tell me
yes.
about the perks, the enjoyment, all of it.
It's so let me say this. I'm super grateful, super thankful. It is a little annoying. I'm just, again, I'm not someone that does it for
Yeah.
the hoopla and all that. So, you know, my district showed a lot of love. I was on every billboard in Florence. I've been in several magazines.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, is like all these news stories and blah blah. And I'm just like, I just want to go to Walmart and just, some shorts and some slides and be able to get what I need real quick and get out. And people are like, "Oh my God, you're the guy!"
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, the cool side about this is I've met a lot of cool educators and administrators. I've been able to network with people from all 50 states. We have these like monthly AP like FaceTimes and group meets and stuff like that. Not group meets, Google Meets and stuff where we're able to meet and talk about just issues we face in administration. And, here's how we solve this. Here's how you do this. So just being able to get some fresh ideas that are not, what do we do in Florence?
Yeah.
And be able to bring those back to my school and my district has been really cool. Next week, I'll be going to Seattle I'm actually presenting at the National Administrators Conference. Um, so it's been really cool to be able to interact with people who just really have the passion to do this stuff, man. And
Mm-hmm.
so that has been cool. And then they like pay for your flights and stuff, and I'm just,
Come
I'm
on.
not used to that,
Come
right? And
on.
so to me, it's like, oh man, like this is kind of fancy,
Yeah.
but it's been really cool. I've definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. 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 And you've experienced all of this, and I know it's been sweet and enjoyable, but the real world is about to kick in. School is about to start, even though you're presenting next week. And this is going to be your first year as principal. Can you, I guess, in one sentence or two sentences, describe the type of culture you intend to build at your new school as principal?
So what I have told, so I've done some meet and greets with my faculty here. What I've told them, my personal motto is excellence is the standard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the culture. Our new school motto here is excellence every day the more way.
Mm,
Yes, sir. So the culture, what we do, it's at the top tier level,
yeah.
but we do so in a family atmosphere. And so I would say I'm blessed to be at a school that already has a family atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just pushing that forward. Really, the expectation is, when kids see adults or they see other kids, the
Mm-hmm.
expectation is that you speak. When adults see other adults, the expectation is that you speak.
Mm-hmm.
Education is a hard job. Like you said, it's a career that tends to get people who thrive in stress.
Yeah.
You can't do this stuff alone. So, lending a hand, helping others, and just making sure that we get the job done. At the end of the day, what we do is for the kids. So,
Yeah.
um, don't kill yourself trying to do it. Reach out to the people next to you, and let's get it done at an excellent level.
Most
That's my
definitely.
advice there.
Most definitely. And that's so refreshing to know that you're trying to build a place of true cohesion. You don't often hear about it being enforced at that high of a level, especially from the top. And so I just want to say thank you for that. In that regard, when you're looking to, this your first year, hire in, APs, teachers, the staff, what are some of the key things you're looking for when you're trying to get people that can bring excellence to the school?
Mm-hmm. So I've done a lot of hiring. I'm glad to say we are now 100% staffed. Thank God.
Woohoo!
Correct. But no, so I would say the first thing I look for is that you just have a passion for kids. If you don't have a passion for kids, this job is not, or let me not say this job is not for you. My building is not for you. Um, and I'm just going to be straight up about it,
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, I mean,
yeah,
we're all going to have bad days. It's still a job at the end of the day, so every day is
yeah,
not going to be great, right? You're still a human at the end of the day. You know, things in life happen, but if you have a passion for kids, when you come in here, you remember that the reason I'm doing this are these faces in front of me.
yeah,
So I need people that have that. So the questions, I ask, and I always put a committee together. The questions are designed to make sure we can see the passion for kids.
yeah,
Even if you're new to teaching, you may not have the experience of what you would do in a classroom. You can still tell if you're passionate about what you want to do,
for
right?
sure. Yep.
So that's one. The other one, every interview that we've done, we always ask, how do you collaborate with others? Tell us a
Mm,
time when you've worked with someone else. Tell us a time when you've had a conflict. How'd you handle it? Like, just making sure that we can see how you're going to interact and collaborate and communicate with other people, because we don't need people coming in here who are not willing to be part of a team.
yeah,
And again, not that education isn't for you, but this building is not for you if you're not
for
willing to
sure.
be part of a team.
For sure.
And so those are, in terms of how I'm looking for that, we design questions to make sure we can see, is this person going to fit the atmosphere that we have here at Moore?
That's excellent, bro. That's excellent. And that's something that I guess you have the luxury of your celebrity status, I say right now, because, just from the outside looking in, who wouldn't want to work for the award winner for National AP of the Year, who's now going to be a principal in the first year? All eyes will be on this building, the way you lead, the way you roll out your plans. And so hopefully you're attracting the right type of people. And I'm sure with your leadership, you've hired the right type of people. And I don't want to hold you long, bro. I know it's been a
Oh no,
long,
you're good. You're good.
but man, what would you say, because you're stepping into this new role, what would you say has been the best piece of advice regarding stepping into, the head position at the school? And who gave you that piece of advice?
Hmm. So there are two different pieces of advice that I think have been golden. Um, the first one was really my superintendent. When I met with him, he told me, like, when you're the building principal, oftentimes people feel like they have to know it because you're the leader. You won't know what you're doing all the time, and that's okay.
Mm,
Just like we tell our teachers and our kids to ask for help, he said it. I won't be mad at you if you ask me for help because you don't know how to do it. I will be mad at you if you just go and do it, not knowing how to do it, and you do it wrong. That's when I'm going to be upset. And
okay.
so, just for me, and there were other people who were in the principal role that told me the same thing. Like, listen, it's okay to not know. You may feel like you're not being the best leader if you don't know, but leadership means you're going to go figure it out and find out how to do it, and then you go do it, right? But it's
Yeah.
okay to not know. And so for me, that's a big thing, because, again, the expectation I have for myself is that we're always here. So when I don't know something, sometimes I do feel like, oh man, I feel like I should know this.
Yeah.
But just helping myself remember that I'm human and this is a new role for me.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of advice I've gotten is to remember not to kill yourself in the job,
Yeah.
and to find a good work-life balance. And I'll be very honest, I struggle with that in general. This position so far, there have been days where I'm like, all right, I'm going home, we good. And, right now I'm in a moment where I'm like, oh my God, there's so much to do.
Yeah.
And then again, leaving for a few days and being out of town, and not, when I come back, literally the night I come back, the very next morning starts registration week. So it's like, I got to get stuff done, but just remembering that, at the end of the day, it's going to be here in the morning.
Yep.
And just remembering to take time for myself has been a big piece of advice.
That's solid. That's solid. Man, with you being such an amazing leader and you giving so much of yourself to the industry, to your job, to these kids, man, though you do it at an excellent level, what would be the one area of growth you desire to see in yourself this upcoming year?
More patience.
Okay. Okay.
I
That's probably,
I've struggled with patience my whole life. I've gotten a lot better at it.
yeah.
Um, but I can say that when things get hectic, sometimes my patience levels are lower. And I know there were moments as an AP where I get a referral for a kid that I've been working with and working with and working with, and I get a referral, you done did something stupid. And I'm like, that's it. It's a wrap. They're home for 3 days, blah, blah. And then I have to like sit back before I call the kid in and like, they're still a kid. I
Yeah.
made mistakes at their age, and
Yeah.
so, sometimes just having to remember to have some patience and actually understand what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this role, when you're leading the entire building and all kids and all faculty, I've had to step back a few times and just remind myself that, again, people don't know what you expect if you haven't communicated it.
Yeah.
Because I'm new, people don't know what the expectation is. And so they're sort of like,
Yeah.
So just giving myself patience and giving others patience to understand that this year is going to be all of us growing together.
Yeah.
That's my biggest area that I know I'm like intentionally trying to focus on that.
For sure. And what would you hope the people that work alongside you and your parents and students would do as an aid to you during this first year? What could you ask of them to help this first year be the best year for you guys collectively?
Honestly, the biggest thing is just giving us some grace. Again, I've gotten a few emails from parents where they're talking about stuff, and I'm like, that was done before I got here. I don't know. I got to figure it out. I don't. So my response has always been like, thank you for informing me. I will figure, I'll figure out what's happening with this, and I will get back to you. But coming in, there were some decisions that were made about next year that I didn't make, and so now I have to figure out what does that look like. And so just giving grace. This year is going to be a learning year. We're all sort of building together. The following year, once we sort of have us established with this new regime,
Yep.
It'll be a cleaner transition. But as we're transitioning, give us some grace and work with us as we work with you. And that's the biggest thing I can ask.
And I think it's almost common sense for, I guess, the parent and the student and the community member that's watching to be able to check the track record and know that he has you guys' best intention at the forefront of his mind. The community initiatives, the way he oversaw all the things at the previous school. It's like he's going to do his best. You know what I'm saying? He's working himself into the ground. And so I just want to implore all parents, all community members, all students to make sure you take care of this guy because he may be trying to kill himself, trying to take care of you guys. So make sure you take care of this guy. And with that, man, I'll just ask you two more questions. And we talk about legacy, what we want to leave behind, but also not just, the impact with the kids and the staffers, but with your contemporaries, people who are now in your position or who are now in your previous position. What would you say to assistant principals, man, who aim to have the type of impact you had? What are 3 things or 2 things you would say, man, these are non-negotiables. You have to do this and you have to be this type of person. What are those things?
Well, so let me say, one, you have to be authentically you. I am a blunt, what you see is what you get type of person. And while I've had to adjust maybe how I say things sometimes, what I want to get across is still going to come across, right? But people know that it comes from a genuine place. I am not out here to get any kid in trouble. I am not out here to upset any parent. My goal really is to make sure that as a team, we do what's best for your kid. In my old experience as an AP to graduate, because I was at high school. But now at a middle school is really to make sure that 1, your kid is the best they can be academically, but 2, that they're learning the skills they need to be a good human, right? They're in the developmental process where they're trying to figure out who they are and how they treat others. And so really making sure that we not only attack the academic piece and make sure that they're strong academically, but that we're also really focusing on the personal piece and we're molding people who are going to be responsible and respectful citizens. But you can't do that if you're not authentically you. And so, kids can tell whether it's genuine or not.
Yes.
And so just be you. right?
Yeah.
And understand that sometimes being you means that you're going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes as an AP, and I apologize to those kids or I apologize to those parents because that's life. We're still human, right?
Yeah.
And even though you make those mistakes, every parent or student I apologize to was like, man, that's real. No, I've never been with a principal that's going to apologize to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, you make mistakes. And so that's one piece of advice. The second is once you set your goal, don't let anyone deter it. Um, sorry, but don't, once you set your goal, let your goal be your goal.
Yeah.
And as bad as it sounds, sometimes in education, there are people that are like, but they can't do that. You have to look at, their past. They come from rough backgrounds or they're already behind I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
For me, when I say my kids are going to be the absolute best they can be, that I don't care if you are homeless. I will do whatever we can to make sure that we find you a place to stay, that we feed you. There's showers here. You can take showers. We'll get you some clothes. I'll get you supplies. I will do what I need to do to help the homeless part. But that's not going to be an excuse for why you can't be great, right?
Come on.
And that, to me, education is the way out of that cycle of generational trauma. And so I hold everybody to that high standard because I believe you can do more than what you were born into or whatever circumstance you fell into.
Yeah.
And so never let any student's background or what people tell you or whatever deter your goal or make you lower your goal. Absolutely not. You stick to it and you push forward. And then the third piece of advice, man, is ask questions. I didn't learn everything I learned just because I didn't ask. I didn't know everything. And I reached out. I got some strong mentors who were able to help me out.
Yeah.
And that's how I grew into who I am today. And even as a principal, I got people who I got a mentor right now that I probably called about 6-7 times today. I was like, hey, help me with.
Yeah.
But that's how we grow as people. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Come on.
And so, yeah, those are my pieces of advice.
Come on. Y'all make some noise for that amazing monologue with all those gems filled in there. Assistant principals, people who educate. I hope you were taking notes. Matter of fact, go rewind what he just said so you can understand it at a deeper level. And I know we talked about this offline, the importance of education. I almost forgot to ask you about that. I mean, can you, in further detail, explain to the audience how vital education is for our country, as a whole? So.
Absolutely. I would say, one of my biggest frustrations with education in today's society, I really feel as though the community has forgotten the impact of education. But if you look back through history, you look back through time, education is what has helped advance every part of our lives. And so while I don't agree with everything that we do in education today, and nobody does, right?
Yeah.
I do believe in the system. We have a system that is designed to help people better themselves and better their, future positions through education. And so people, oftentimes are like, well, how is learning what they're learning going to help them? It's not always about the content, right? I was a math teacher before I got into administration. And I can tell you right now that Y equals MX plus B is not something that most people use every day.
Yeah.
But it's the process of being able to critically think and solve those math problems and figure out
that part.
How do I get the answer that will help you think logically and critically think through problems when you are an adult.
That part.
And so it's not necessarily the content, it's the skills you learn within the educational system that is going to help you be who you can be.
Yeah.
And so just the one thing I can push is, not only are they going to learn academic skills, but being in school helps people learn social skills, networking skills, those soft skills that you need in any job, whether it's a college, a degree requiring job or, a regular 9-to-5 job that you don't need a degree for. You're going to learn those soft skills. And, what I tell people all the time, I do not believe that every person needs to go to college. There are people who have 0 college degrees that make way more than I make, and so it's not about being an A student, but it's about being the best student that you can be for yourself. And so that that education process really provides an opportunity for people to put themselves in a position that's better than where they came from.
Yeah.
And I stand by that any day of the week.
I believe he dispelled all of the unnecessary lies that plague our community, especially. Like, why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do that? That's not important. Like, you just, in a very clear manner, gave us the exact reasons why these things are important, why the system is important, why having someone like you is important. And that could be our last question. We can transition into what we also talked about online. Representation matters. And you
Absolutely.
being an individual of color as a principal, winning a national award, man, that speaks volumes. If you can just elaborate on, the representation and how it's transformed your life and how you aim to help transform others.
Absolutely. One thing I would say in our community is often it is, being smarter, being the good kid in school or being the teacher's pet is not cool. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I'm just
Yeah,
gonna again, I'm a
yeah,
blunt person. To me, I don't understand that at all.
yeah,
Um, that's like saying that being a fantastic employee at work is not cool.
yeah,
Why not? That's what pays your bills, right? Like
yep,
there's nothing wrong with being a standout in life. So if you're going to be the best kid in the school or the teacher's pet or whatever, what's wrong with being a standout? Because if you're on a field or a court and you're a standout, all of a sudden, oh, you a superstar.
yeah,
So again, it's, what do we value in our community?
yeah,
We value that you can, throw a ball or dribble a ball,
yeah,
but we don't value that you can do math in your head without having to use a calculator.
yeah,
That doesn't make sense to me.
yeah.
We value that you can run, real fast and set records, but we don't value that you can read a book.
Mm,
That doesn't sit right with me.
yeah,
Um, and so for me, being in this position or being in education as a black man, especially because there's not a lot, one, there's just not a lot of men in education, but then there's even less black men in education. Not only does it send a message to the black boys that are in my building, but it sends a message to the black girls and the black families
mm,
that, hey, this is possible.
yeah,
And for, unfortunately, looking at stereotypes and looking at data, unfortunately, it is our community that tends to underperform on standardized tests, underperform academically. Um, and sometimes, when I'm talking to kids, they're like, well, no one in my family has graduated. And that's sort of the expectation. Before me, no one in my family went to college either. But that doesn't
wow,
mean that that I didn't set out to do it, right? You can still do it. Just
yeah,
because you haven't seen it doesn't mean you can't do it.
yeah,
And so being able to motivate those students and saying like, I don't care what the stereotypes say. I don't care, at the end of the day, just because that's what people say about us
mm,
or that's what the data shows about us, it doesn't mean that that's what we have to be.
mm.
Um, and so being a living proof of that, when I say it to kids, it's like, well, I don't know anybody. I'm sitting right in front of you. Yes, you do. And so, again, just being able to push kids and motivate them that who cares what people have to say? Who cares what, data shows?
Yeah,
Beat the odd, right?
come on,
Doesn't mean it's not going to be hard work,
yeah,
but I didn't get here because it was easy. So,
for sure,
it is what it is.
for sure. Excellent answer, excellent interview, and you've given so much game, and I don't want to hold you hostage. It is 6:50 right now. He has agreed to do this after a long day, putting out tons of fires, working long, hard hours all week. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being a transformative figure in our education system, in our community, being a servant leader, bro. It's an honor to know you, honor to have you on the platform, and brother, I can't wait
Likewise.
to see all the amazing reports we see out of your school. And I know because people will be watching, we'll be pulling up, we'll be, checking the news, we'll be checking TikTok. I know you'll probably have some teachers that'll do some TikTok or whatever. So yeah, man, super excited. Anything you want to say in closing to anybody that's watching, any message you have in your heart as we
Well, I just, one, thank you for all the positive words, but for everybody that is watching, if you do not follow this man, need to get your life together, because talking about motivating people, Duane Kyles is that guy. And so also just, I want to thank you, because you've come and helped me with some of my kids before. And we've already talked about, getting you here and more and motivating some of my kids. But, I definitely want to give you your flowers while you're here, because what you're doing with our kids is amazing. And what you're doing just with, your communities is amazing. So
appreciate that, bro.
You're welcome.
It's hard for me to receive, affirmation. So
hey, listen, I'm the same way. People say stuff and I'm like, every time they're like, "Oh, he's the national," I'm like, "Please stop!" Like, I'm just Sonny. Like, relax.
Yeah.
But yes, I do. I've seen you in action. I saw what you did with my boys at West Florence, and I mean, after you left, they were like, "Man, like I am smart. I am," and I'm like, "Yes, you are." But what you do is important. So thank you.
I appreciate that, brother. Just trying to be like you, man.
Oh, Lord.
But that is it, family. We love y'all. Until next time. Peace.
Duane Kyles is the guy.
He was amazing.
Everybody needs to hear for how amazing he is.
Words that he brought today is very powerful.
He was phenomenal.
He made me a better man, honestly.
I would be the best student in my classroom. I will. I would be the best version of myself.
I will. I recommend Duane Kyles to come to your school, to talk to your student population, to motivate them, get them engaged.
I don't know how to describe it, but he connected to the audience, and I liked it.
If you're looking for somebody to come and transform the lives of middle school, high school students, Duane Kyles is the guy.
We want him to come back and speak to the whole entire district, not just one school. We want all schools to hear him, and all administrators, teachers, parents, scholars. Everybody needs to hear for how amazing he is.
And so you must ask yourself in this moment, when people think about you, what is associated with your name? How do you want to be remembered? What type of legacy do you want to leave here at this school?